Hey, this is Edwin Dearborn, another edition of Growth Driven, and I'm very excited about today's interview because I'm with Dr. Chris Salierno, and he's going to be talking about how to be a better dentist, but moreover, how to be a better dentist and businessman at the same time. Hey, Edwin Dearborn here, another edition of Growth Driven, and I am here with Dr. Chris Salierno, D.D.S. Chris, thank you so much for joining us here on Growth Driven.
Thank you very much, Edwin. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I had a chance to look at your website, The Curious Dentist, which I will showcase the URL in the video when we're done uploading, as well as on the podcast. We streamed to about 16 different channels. So if you want to know more about Dr. Chris after this episode, go down that rabbit hole. Great website, services to really help dentists become better at business. I had a chance to speak with Chris before the interview here and brought up so many great topics that I know that he's going to share value. So if you're a dentist, you're looking to grow in this post-COVID world of how to really get your market straight, I'm telling you, Chris has got a lot of great insight. So Chris, tell me how you started out in dentistry and how you grew into the speaker that you are today.
Yeah, so I went to dental school, graduate in 2001, and I graduated in 2005. And as I say in my lectures, when I talk about the economic landscape facing dentistry, a lot happened in those few years. From in 2001, dentists were still riding high on, implants now being taking their modern form, replacing missing teeth, in interesting ways. We were just beginning a technology explosion with same-day dentistry, veneers, whitening, you name it. Dentistry was great, and as ADA research shows, 4% year-over-year increase in spend by Americans. So that's when I was going to dental school, riding that wave. And then I graduated in 2005, and things had started to change a little bit. That was certainly my experience. And then, of course, when 2008 happened, that crisis revealed a lot of issues that were starting, economic issues that were facing dentistry. Pretty early on, and when I realized I love clinical dentistry, but I really love teaching, I love writing, I love consulting, I love doing all these other things around dentistry. Oftentimes, I'd rather teach 100 dentists to do a procedure better than do that procedure 100 times myself. So those kinds of callings, made me realize I needed to build time in my schedule to do other things. So I was very honored to be very involved in the American Dental Association. That's great networking. And then in 2014, I became the chief editor of Dental Economics, which was a great honor. That's an outstanding publication. Before I got there, it was an outstanding publication. I hope I've done it some honor. And it's just been good fun. So I practice 2 or 3 days a week now, and the rest of my time is devoted to lectures and to dental economics.
It's awesome. So not only are you practicing dentist, which I think is really important that as an editor and as a teacher, you still have that hands-on approach. So it isn't just this clinical outside observation. You're doing the good work. You're delivering to patients, and so you keep your finger on the pulse of the industry.
Yeah, we use a term, not to gross out the non-dentist listeners here, but in dentistry we call it being a wet-fingered dentist. I still have my hands in people's mouths, and I'm in the trenches, so to speak.
That's great. So now you on your website, you talk about better dentistry, better business. Could you speak to me maybe to the top 3, 4, maybe even 5? What are the issues that you see, particularly now that COVID's, the restrictions are easing, we've kind of got a new world we're living in. Speak to us what those top challenges are and how you're kind of mitigating or navigating dentists in that right direction.
So there are a number of economic forces that are reshaping this profession, and they simply weren't really around, say 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So these are new forces that are shaping us. I still, to jump to the conclusion, I still think it's a fantastic time to be a practicing dentist and a small business owner. It's a fantastic time to do it. It's just that the game has changed. So here's why the game has changed. One, we are living in a relatively flat dental economy. I sort of touched on that before. Americans, by and large, are not increasing their spend on dental services year after year. There's some regional differences, and I'm talking just nationwide.
Yeah.
So locally, you might have a great booming economy and everything's fantastic. But in general, we're not seeing Americans spend more money on their dentistry year over year. That could be for all kinds of reasons, right?
Yep.
So flat dental economy. We're also increasing the supply of dentists. We have opened a number of new dental schools over the past decade and 15 years even. And there's arguably more on the horizon. That may have changed a little bit with COVID, but once those schools are open, they're now producing 80, 120, whatever new dentists every year. And so if the supply of dentists is increasing and the demand for our services is just kind of meh, we could see right there, just those two economic forces are causing a huge issue for dentists.
Makes sense.
Very quickly, some of the other forces would be new business models. Dental service organizations, DSOs, also go by the term corporate dentistry. That's typically a private equity-backed group of practices. They might go under the same brand name. They may not. That's a consolidation force that we've seen in other verticals like veterinary and chiropractic and whatnot. It's been around in its modern form for, say, since the late 90s. Certainly in the aughts, it really kicked up. And that's it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just a different business model. But they are some of these groups are doing really good dentistry for people and making a very appealing employment model for their dentists. So just like in private practice, there's a solo practitioner like myself. There's people who do it right. There's people who don't do it right. But it's a different force, right? It's definitely affecting our profession and how dentists may enter into it. Of course, then a fourth one, I'd have to mention student debt. This is also affecting so many other industries, whether you're an attorney or a veterinarian. The cost of going to undergraduate and then graduate school is quite significant. And so, fortunately, dentists still can obtain loans. Dental specific lenders will give them money to buy and start practices, which is great. However, psychologically and emotionally, many dentists that graduate dental school still feel this burden of their $400,000 that they're in debt. Oh, even north of that, especially for people that are specializing. That's just an emotional burden. And so that can change how they choose to, their decisions to either open or buy a practice. So that's just an overview of just some of the things that are going. I have to mention, of course, PPO. That would be another big one. Our reimbursements are not increasing year over year, and in those dental insurance companies, PPOs are typically playing more and more games, denying claims, and unfortunately, the patients tend to blame us, the dentists. We didn't file my paperwork correctly, and it's actually the insurance provider, the third-party payer, that's playing the games. So, gosh, you take all of those factors I just put together, and you might say it doesn't sound like it's a great time to be a practicing dentist and or a business owner. But again, I think it's an outstanding time to be a dentist and a business owner. And to answer your question, why? Because we, especially if we own our own business, we're able to evolve how we do dentistry. As long as we're not doing dentistry the same way it was done in 1985, as long as we evolve our business models, even think about a business model as a dentist, we'll uncover all kinds of great ways for us to treat our communities and thrive.
That's awesome. I think you bring up a key word here is evolve. That's where it's almost, maybe it's an industry. There's some industries like that, like, well, how could we evolve? I mean, we're dentists, we're lawyers. The law is the law. Teeth are teeth. Where is there to, how do we evolve past just upgraded technology of the post that we put in an implant, right? But there's this whole other business side that's moving at a rapid rate. Moreover, audiences are changing, their needs, their desires, their economics. how do we evolve to keep up with where society is going?
Yeah.
And from everything I've seen from you is you're bringing that dentist to the present moment and going, look, I'm going to tell you about the landscape.
Yeah.
And if you evolve to that landscape, then you're going to grow.
Yes. Dentists this is my opinion on how we can overcome these economic challenges.
Okay.
Dentists for far too long, and still the way we're trained in dental school, we're not trained on the business aspects. We're taught just go hang up your shingle and treat the people in your community, and learn some skills, invest in some technology, and everything will work out fine. And that can still work. However, if we're actually become students as business owners, and not that we have to have an MBA, but if we just learn some basics like what a proper business model looks like, then I think we've got great opportunities. So the number one thing I advocate is for dentists to stop trying to be everything to everyone and instead be something very special to a few. So I don't turn patients away from my practice, right? I'm not saying I refuse to treat certain patient demographics, far from it. But the unique selling propositions that I create and the channels in which I do my marketing, those are all catered to specific target demographics. That's what helps me stand out from the crowd. So I don't care how many dentists practice in my community, or if a large DSO office with a ton of marketing, a huge marketing budget opens up down the street from me. It doesn't matter to me. I'm appealing to target demographics, and we're just not even competing for the same people. So, for example, I practice in Melville, Long Island. It's a major industrial corporate area. The major headquarters for a lot of U.S. companies are there. So my target demographic is what I call busy business people, right? So you think of busy business people, what do they want out of their dental appointment? And I'm not talking about dentistry, posts, and implant. What does a busy business person want out of their dental appointment? I mean, what would you say off the top of your head? If you're busy, you're a VP of this or that at some major company, and there's a dentist down the street, what would you want out of that appointment?
Yeah, I'd want to be in and out rapidly with no loss of time.
Yes, exactly. So, and be seen on your lunch hour too, right? I mean,
be seen on my lunch hour.
See me early and get me out early, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't take my lunch when I'm in practice. I don't take my lunch at noon, because that would be pretty dumb of me if I wanted to attract busy business people. Right?
Totally,
Now, that's one kind of silly, small little example, but it's actually really important. Those are all these little unique selling propositions that I offer to my patients if I'm trying to attract busy business people. The decor of my reception area, making sure we see people on time, having the workflow to accommodate that. They better be seen on time and get out on time, right? I have evening hours because we have plenty of patients that don't want to sit on Long Island traffic. And so it's no big deal for them. They get out of work a little early, have their appointment at 5. And by the time we're done, they're driving home on an open road. It's all of these little, you could say they're all these little details. That's what you add them up, and you're delivering a really important experience, a unique selling proposition, dental experience for that target demographic. I think it's fun to think about these things and invite them to do it, right? And when you do that, I'm now offering someone, I'm offering someone an experience that is catered to them. It's not just about being nice to people, right? Like every dental office is like, we take great care of our patients. Of course you do. No one on their website says we tolerate our patients. No, of course not, right? So what are you doing to actually take really good care of people aside from just smiling and being nice to them?
Yes, great. Hey, if you're just joining in on the video, or maybe 3 months joining in on the video, or you're listening to the podcast, I'm with Dr. Chris Salierno, and you can find him at The Curious Dentist. And I like that, The Curious Dentist. You'd have to be curious to kind of elevate your game. So great name. Love that brand. And there's 3 things. I was taking notes while you were talking. And what I I noticed, Chris, is you use verbiage that the average dentist doesn't use. I've always been the schools. What words does a person speak about? What do they use? That speaks about their thoughts, their intentions. You brought up USP, you brought up channels, and you brought up targeted demographics. All topics that I love talking about. And then the fourth word was, let me write this one down, experience. So you're thinking you've really assumed the viewpoint of the patient going, okay, what am I going to experience? And you broke down all those little details, as they say, devil's in the details. You worked out the time. When do I have my lunch? What does the design look like? What do I say to you've taken every little thing so that the experience matches the targeted demographics. You obviously have channels, which we'll get to a little bit here in a second. And then you thought about your USP based on that demographic. And now you have a straight shot line of all those little touch points, all those value adds. And so when the guy comes in, it's almost like, wow, this dentist is about me. And it's seamless and it's subconscious. But when they walk in, it just feels that they belong there.
Yeah, that's right. For what crystallized this for me is a book called Business Model Generation by Osterwalder. Came out in 2010.
Okay.
Fabulous book. Love this book. And it's the principle, the instrument that they present in this book, him and his co-authors, is called the Business Model Canvas. It takes elements of so many. I've read so much material and business. My shelf here is stacked with more business books than books on clinical dentistry, I assure you. Yeah. Marketing books and lean this and Kaizen. I've become a student of all that, and I love it.
Like me.
Love it. But the book Business Model Generation, I give full credit to Osterwalder and his team for that. It's a visual way to look at building a business model. And those are the first steps, right? Is target demographic, unique selling proposition. And he gives so many great case studies. Whether you're a florist or whether you're a dentist, it doesn't matter. You're, thinking about who you serve and what do you do that's special for them. And then once you get that in your mind, all of the other building blocks to your model start to fall into place.
I wholeheartedly agree. I love that you're speaking. And it's funny you use these words like lean and Kaizen, because I have several friends that'll be watching this and they'll go, Ed says those words all the time. Kaizen, yeah. I love, the Japanese word, right?
Yes, so I've geeked out on Kaizen too, and I'm studied how do we. That came out of post World War II Japanese industrial manufacturing. Toyota production system is often quoted as or cited as being where that Kaizen methodology and what would ultimately become Six Sigma and Lean and all of these other concepts would come out of. How do you take what was a philosophy that was meant for large scale industrial manufacturing and apply it to a small business? So that's one of the things I've had a lot of fun doing, and in my lectures I'll talk about that quite a bit. Is how we develop a culture of excellence and how we perfect systems and get buy-in from teams. I lean very heavily on no pun intended lean, but I borrow heavily and reference my favorite Kaizen resources for that.
That's awesome. If you're a dentist and you're listening to this, I want to now go to your conferences, because when you said Kaizen and lean, it was like that was my hook.
Yeah.
And I know that that's such an important point, is how do I adapt that Honda model into my dental practice? And I think a lot of times people have a hard time scaling back into a point of application.
Yeah, well, dentists nor are our hygienists or anyone on our team. We're not, assembly line workers, right?
Yeah,
like at an industrial manufacturing. So it's not, just in time delivery, these other kinds of concepts that come around with it the Deming wheel. It may not be immediately obvious how you apply them to dentistry, but that's what's fun I think is figuring out how to make this stuff work for you. The Deming wheel, the PDCA cycle, I think is one of the, if you really want to go down a rabbit hole, that's one that I think is just a fabulous way to, it's like the scientific method for business. And so for dentists, it feels very natural for us. We're familiar with that as former biology majors and whatnot. But just it's a great approach for attacking all those dozens of problems you have as a small business owner.
That's great insight. So Chris, now you talked about channels, which is a subject near and dear to my heart. Can you speak to that point? And I'm taking notes as we talk. What are the channels that, whether they're 3, 4, 5, that we could accentuate here that you feel are important for doctors to maximize and utilize to grow that practice?
Right. So think about where you're, I'll identify 2, 3, 4 target demographics for our practice. If you're identifying 20 target demographics, you're probably not doing the exercise properly. You're still trying to be everything to everybody, right?
That's true.
So, I'll identify 2, 3, 4 demographics. Think about what they have in common. Think about what they don't have in common, where they live, their activities. And then also, once you think about where they live, where their eyeballs and ears are, then you can start to think about which channels make sense. And the whole purpose then of your marketing, in my opinion, is to communicate your unique selling propositions to those people. So a dentist who markets and says, I see a lot of very generic dental marketing, whether it's direct mail, which can be effective, or it's social media, or whatever it is, it can be very generic. Even billboards on the side of the road. It's all, we're a dentist. We take good care of people. We do crowns and extractions and root canals. Like we're talking as craftsmen, and that's not communicating anything special to our patients, our potential patients. What's more interesting is if I was trying to reach busy business people, for example, is to talk about, hey, we have convenient hours. We can see you on lunch. We'll get you back in time for your afternoon shift. Those pictures of your reception area that are clearly catering to a more elevated, sophisticated group that busy business people might be accustomed to at their favorite restaurant, right? So I'll give you an example of a channel I wouldn't take. I remember a few years ago, my office manager at the time came and said, "Oh, I've got great news. This local school, they have soccer matches at the on this field, and for $50 we can get a banner with our logo on it, and then for another $50 per year we can display the banner, and all the kids and their parents, the soccer moms, all those folks will be there, and they'll see our banner. Only $50 a year, $50 initial investment for the banner. Should we do it? It's so inexpensive." And my answer was no, because our target demographics are busy business people, and I'll tell you, one of the other ones is seniors, right? So 65 plus.
Yep.
Those are, I'll treat kids if they come in the door, but I'm not building my practice for the pediatric population. That's not how I bill myself. That's not my model. We see plenty of kids, don't get me wrong, but there's no, kiddie toy section in the reception area when you walk in, because that's a disconnect. If you're a senior vice president of whatever at a major corporation, and you're walking in to get, real serious cosmetic reconstructive dentistry done, and there's broken crayons all over the place in the reception area,
it just killed the vibe.
You killed the vibe. Not to say you can't do that dentistry in that environment, but it's just, you're killing the vibe a bit, right? Are they going to recommend and refer? Are they going to be as likely to say yes to that treatment? Or I'm not sure. Can I see some examples of your other cases? I'm not sure you're qualified to do this, is what they're saying, right? So no, we don't go into those channels. Nothing against the parents and the soccer moms and those other great target demographics. If you're building a family practice, then it makes a ton of sense to do that, right? Yeah. So what are the channels? It depends on your target demographics. I think social media, digital marketing is very exciting. I will tell you that some tried and true methods like direct mail can absolutely still work, especially for targeted communities. But I think it makes sense to think about Can you segregate these lists? Can you qualify the eyeballs that you're reaching in these channels? That's always nice to be able to do. And then just make sure your messaging is on point for those target demographics. And please don't make it sound like every other dentist that I see out there.
I agree. Well, that basically comes back to your USP. Are you really identifying your USP? Are you really identifying your demographics? What do they need and want? Like I could just see a campaign, teeth whitening at noon, board meeting at 2. It's just, and they can go, oh, I can think with that. Like I'm going to be in and out and I'll still be able to make the board meeting.
Yeah. I'll tell you one for seniors. So for 65 plus, which is obviously an exploding category for all dentists. It's an amazing opportunity. I don't like to communicate on price because I think it can commoditize what we do.
Yeah.
So you won't see in any, I'll never run an ad that's like $50 off this or that.
Yeah.
There's, for certain target demographics, it can make sense to do that. But by and large, if you give someone something that looks like a coupon to cut out, who are you really attracting? From any target demographic, who are you really attracting, right? The bargain hunters. That being said, one should acknowledge that, and there's ADA, American Dental Association research that proves this. For our seniors, the number one reason that they don't go to the dentist is cost. And there's a few other ones out there too. They don't have any of their original teeth. They don't think they need to see a dentist anymore, or whatever it is. Phobia, right. Inconvenient hours, whatever. But number one with a bullet is cost. So one of the unique selling propositions that we're developing for that target market is an in-house discount plan. They know they're retired generally, right? So they don't have dental insurance. They were used to having dental insurance. So maybe they maybe their routine exams and cleanings were free. Maybe it was covered at 100%. Well, now they retired, lost their benefits. Now they have to pay $320 out of pocket for that same experience. Of course, they're going to say dentistry is really expensive, especially if they're on a fixed income. So what can we do to meet them halfway? So we're developing an in-house discount plan. It's like an insurance. They pay into it. But they're going to get a substantial savings versus if they weren't in the plan, or if they tried to use some other kind of discount plan that was out there. In many ways, it's very cost comparable to what they might have had before. We're offering that only to people who are 65 and over. That is meeting them halfway, and that's good fodder, if you will, good content for what you're going to communicate in your marketing messages. And it can be done tastefully, right? It's not the neon sign discount half off. It's saying, hey, we understand that our patients who are, that are retired are often on fixed income. And so, we're here to help. And so we found some creative solutions to make sure that your necessary dental care is affordable. And we'd like to talk to you about it. That kind of message is positive. It's not commoditizing what we do, but it's understanding what their needs are.
Yeah. And look, the term affordable healthcare is something that's being spoken in the halls of Congress. So this is obviously a term and a concept that is broad in appeal. And number two, what you're doing is providing a methodology for them to come in. I also think it's going to be a great referral model, because if somebody is approached in a professional manner and allowed to do it, I can see that individual going out with friends that evening, or they belong to a church or synagogue. Yeah. And now they're talking like, hey, your teeth look great. It must have cost you a fortune. And the guy's like, well, they have affordable solutions.
Yeah.
And that just becomes a talking point once the person shows up with great looking teeth.
Absolutely. I think that referrals from patients are by far, or from other dentists, are by far the strongest source of new patients that we can have. Being in network with plans is a form of marketing, right? That hit, instead of the hit I take financially, instead of getting paid $1,000 for a thing, if I'm in network with a dental insurance plan, I'm going to make $500 on the thing, right? And the patient's going to pay 50% of that. So I take a financial hit from that. But in a way, one can look at that hit as a marketing expense. right? So I'm getting a new patient stream. It's slow. It's often not fast from those insurances. Okay, it's a marketing expense, but what can I do to encourage other kinds of patients, ones that aren't dependent on those plans? It's very important for me to be able to welcome in those patients using all of the marketing channels I have available to make sure that my schedule is full and I'm able to take great care of people.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay, so let's say a dentist is watching this now or sometime in the future or listening to the podcast. Obviously, one of the ways that they can find you, if you look below here on the video, thecuriousdentist.com. So let's say a dentist goes, I want to connect with you. Obviously, there's your website. We talked earlier, you're going to be speaking on a circuit, probably like September, October, November. The speaking circuit, the live speaking circuit will open up. And so if they can join your mailing list, they'll find out where you're going to be speaking.
Yeah, gosh, I had to cancel, or I didn't even cancel. So many lecture events were canceled in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
But I'm often invited, and it's an honor to speak at a number of local dental society events, regional dental meetings, national dental meetings. Those are starting to fire back up in Q3 of 2021 here. So I can't wait. Live, I think we all have a yearning to get back to live conferences. You mentioned that in one of your recent podcasts. I think it's live meetings are going to come back with a vengeance, and people are going to be so excited.
Yeah, I think we're going to see in a different model, but I live here in the Las Vegas area. We were built on conventions.
Yeah.
And there's just a certain energy that you have when you travel and you meet your cohorts and you can shake hands and, I don't know, just and sit down over a meal with people and have a drink. And I don't know, there's just something Absolutely. That you walk away with that energy.
Yes. And my lecturing style is very interactive. And so we'll go through, for example, I'll go through that business model construction exercise in some of my presentations. And that interaction, that workshop kind of atmosphere, you just simply cannot do over virtual. You can't do it. It's not possible. And so, yeah, there's no question. The learning experience is so much better when we're live. So it's funny, leading up to this, I've been going to dental meetings for a long time. Up until COVID, you would see some attendance dwindling at some of the meetings. They probably could have used some reinvention of their business model too. Some of those meetings were probably trying to be everything to everybody rather than more niche. But now that we all had a pause, I think people realize, dentists in particular, realize we need to get back in person to learn. It's just a better experience.
Absolutely agree. Chris, I'm learned so much. I know the dentists are going to learn as well from you. I really, really hope if you are listening to this that you connect with Chris. I'm definitely going to go down the rabbit hole on some of the books you recommend, watch some of your videos. And when the live events occur, maybe later in the year, I'd like to have you back on this podcast and kind of talk about what you're seeing in that shift. Probably when you get live, you're going to get a lot of feedback and kind of go, oh, this is where dentistry is going. I'm very interested in that. So, and I want to thank you for being on the show. I know you're busy with a lot of stuff and appreciate you taking the time. Last parting words, your last comment about dentistry. If you could sit down with somebody for a few minutes and impart some wisdom, what would that be?
I find that dentists were trained to be great clinicians, as we should be. And, there's someone's well-being on the other end of our drill, our handpiece. And that's great. We're scientists and we measure our success in fractions of a millimeter. That's a great skill set to have. In my opinion, though, when it comes to business, we need to be messier. We need to be sloppier. We need to not be afraid to fail fast, and learn. So it really is, I think, a great mental gear shift when we go from clinician mode to business owner mode. That perfectionist fallacy can really harm us if we're wearing our still using our clinician thinking when we're making decisions about our business. It's okay to screw up plenty of times, waste some money, learn from it, and evolve.
Right.
We're trying to be as precise with our business as we are with our dentistry. If we might get a little paralysis by analysis and not execute and iterate when we should be.
Great tip. I love that. Don't be as precise with your business model as you are with the millimeters of a mouth.
Exactly right.
Good insight. Chris, thanks again so much. I really, really appreciate you being here. And I know the future looks bright for you. And you're going to help a lot of dentists grow and evolve. So thank you.
Thank you. I had a blast. Thanks.
All right. Again, guys, thank you for joining Growth Driven. Always trying to bring to you the best experts on business and marketing and channels and USP and all the other things that I love talking about. Hopefully you're getting a lot of value of this, and we will see you again very shortly here on Growth Driven.